The INFJ personality is often described as an old soul, and this description tends to follow them from their earliest memories. As children, many INFJs stand slightly apart from the noise of their surroundings. Not necessarily lonely, but observant. Not disengaged, but quietly absorbing. While other children may rush headlong into games and social dynamics, the young INFJ is just as likely to be watching, listening, and trying to understand what is happening beneath the surface. They ask questions that catch adults off guard. Questions about fairness, about why people hurt each other, about what happens after loss. Their curiosity is not only about how the world works, but why it works the way it does. Long before they can articulate complex emotional concepts, they are already sensing emotional undercurrents in their homes, classrooms, and friendships. They notice tension in a parent's voice. They feel the sadness behind a teacher's smile. They register shifts in group mood that others brush past. Because they lack the language to explain this sensitivity, they often grow up thinking this constant awareness is normal. Or, just as often, they grow up thinking they are strange for feeling so much. What personality psychology does not always highlight is how much the INFJ changes across the lifespan. The INFJ life journey is not a steady unfolding of a fixed personality. It is a series of inner transformations that can feel disorienting, even shocking, to the INFJ themselves. Each phase brings a new understanding of their empathy, intuition, boundaries, and purpose. Most of these changes happen internally. From the outside, the INFJ may still look quiet, thoughtful, and kind. But inside, their relationship with their own sensitivity, their needs, and their identity is being reshaped again and again. These stages of INFJ personal growth influence how they form relationships, how they handle conflict, how they choose work, and how they define a meaningful life. The early stage, the overwhelmed empath. In early life, the INFJ often exists as an open emotional system without filters. As a natural empath personality type, they do not just notice feelings around them, they absorb them. The emotional climate of their environment seeps into their own nervous system. If there is conflict, they feel it as personal tension. If someone is disappointed, they may feel responsible, even if they had nothing to do with the situation. This can lead to early people-pleasing tendencies. The young INFJ learns, often unconsciously, that harmony feels safer than conflict. They try to adjust themselves to keep others comfortable. They become attuned to subtle cues of approval and disapproval. A small shift in tone can feel like a major emotional event. Their introverted intuition is already active, scanning for patterns and meaning. But without experience, it can turn inward as self-questioning. Instead of trusting their impressions, they may assume they are overreacting. Instead of seeing their sensitivity as insight, they may see it as weakness. This period is often quietly exhausting. The INFJ child or teenager may seem calm on the outside while feeling overstimulated on the inside. They may retreat into books, imagination, or solitary hobbies, not only because they enjoy them, but because it is the only place where the emotional input slows down. Later in life, many INFJs look back at this stage with surprise. They realize how much emotional weight they carried as children, trying to manage feelings that were never theirs to hold. The identity search. Who am I, really? As INFJs move into adolescence and early adulthood, their inner world becomes more layered and self-aware. They begin to question the roles they have been playing. The helpful one. The responsible one. The quiet one. They start to wonder who they are underneath those adaptations. This is a pivotal phase in INFJ psychology. Introverted intuition pushes them toward meaning, authenticity, and personal truth. They may feel drawn to psychology, philosophy, literature, spirituality, or social causes. They are not just choosing interests. They are searching for frameworks that help them understand the human condition and their place within it. At the same time, they often feel different from their peers. While others may focus on social status or surface-level goals, INFJs are preoccupied with purpose and emotional depth. They may have only a few close friends, but those friendships tend to be intense and meaningful. Still, a sense of being misunderstood can linger. They long to be known fully, yet struggle to explain themselves in a world that moves quickly and speaks in simpler emotional terms. Journaling, introspection, and self-development often become important tools during this stage. INFJs begin to notice repeating patterns in their relationships. They see how often they are the listener, the supporter, the one who adapts. A quiet realization starts to form: they have been shaping themselves around others more than around their own needs. That realization can be both liberating and unsettling. The burnout awakening, the cost of overgiving. Eventually, for many INFJs, there comes a moment when emotional burnout can no longer be pushed aside. Years of overgiving, overlistening, and overextending take a toll. They may wake up one day feeling a kind of exhaustion that is deeper than physical tiredness. Rest does not fully restore them. Social interaction, once meaningful, starts to feel heavy. Their empathy, once effortless, begins to feel strained. They may find themselves withdrawing more, craving solitude not just as a preference but as a necessity. This shift can be frightening. INFJs often define themselves by their compassion. When they feel less able to give, they may worry that they are becoming cold or selfish. In reality, this stage marks a crucial turning point in INFJ personal growth. Burnout forces them to face a difficult truth: empathy without boundaries is not sustainable. Caring deeply does not mean being endlessly available. This realization can feel shocking because it challenges their long-held identity as the one who is always there. But it also opens the door to a healthier relationship with their own energy and emotional limits. The boundary revolution, learning to say no. Out of burnout often comes a quiet revolution. The INFJ who once said yes automatically begins, slowly and sometimes awkwardly, to say no. They start to notice which interactions leave them drained and which leave them nourished. They become more selective with their time and emotional availability. They may step back from relationships that revolve only around their support. They may decline invitations that feel obligatory rather than meaningful. They may stop offering advice unless it is truly welcome. To people who knew them earlier, this can seem like a personality change. Some may feel confused or even hurt. But from the perspective of INFJ psychology, this stage represents emotional maturity. The INFJ is no longer confusing self-sacrifice with love. As they practice boundaries, something unexpected happens. They feel more present, not less. With fewer draining commitments, they have more energy for the people and activities that truly matter. Relationships become more balanced. There is more mutuality and less quiet resentment. For many INFJs, this is the first time they experience connection that does not come at the cost of their own well-being. The clarity stage, trusting their intuition. With time and experience, INFJs begin to trust their introverted intuition in a more conscious way. Earlier in life, they may have dismissed their inner warnings, telling themselves they were being too sensitive or too cautious. They may have given people repeated chances despite clear internal discomfort. As patterns repeat over the years, their confidence in their own perceptions grows. They begin to recognize familiar emotional dynamics quickly. They sense when something is off and are more willing to honor that feeling, even if they cannot explain it logically right away. This stage brings a quiet but powerful confidence. INFJs do not necessarily become more outspoken, but they become more internally certain. They are less likely to override their instincts to keep the peace. They are more comfortable making decisions that align with their inner sense of truth. The surprising part is looking back and realizing how often their intuition had been right all along. The integration of logic and emotion. Another profound shift in INFJ development involves the integration of logic with their natural empathy and intuition. In earlier years, practical demands may have felt overwhelming. Structure, systems, and impersonal decision-making may have seemed at odds with their emotional nature. Over time, many INFJs develop greater comfort with analysis and planning. They begin to see that logic is not the enemy of compassion, but a partner to it. Clear thinking helps them set better boundaries, choose healthier environments, and turn their ideals into realistic action. They become more organized with their time and energy. They learn to evaluate situations not only by how they feel, but also by what is sustainable and fair. This balance between heart and mind creates a more grounded version of the INFJ personality. They may look back at their younger self, who felt overwhelmed by practical life, and feel a quiet pride at how capable they have become. The purpose realignment, living more authentically. In later adulthood, many INFJs experience a deep realignment with purpose. External expectations begin to lose their grip. Success is redefined in personal, value-based terms. The question shifts from what should I be doing to what feels deeply meaningful now. They may change careers to something more aligned with their values. They may simplify their lifestyle, choosing peace over status. They may invest more in close relationships and less in social obligation. This stage brings a sense of quiet freedom. INFJs stop trying to be who they thought they needed to be. They allow themselves to be who they are. Their sensitivity, once managed and hidden, becomes something they honor and protect. The shock in this final stage is the realization that much of life was spent adapting to survive. While this chapter is about living in alignment, not louder, not harder, just truer. And in that truth, the INFJ often finds a deep, steady sense of belonging within themselves that they had been searching for all along. The gentle authority of the mature INFJ. In the later stages of life, many INFJs grow into a presence that feels both soft and strong at the same time. It is not loud authority. It is not dominance or control. It is something quieter and, in many ways, more powerful. A calm, grounded steadiness that comes from having lived through emotional complexity and come out the other side with deeper self-understanding. This is what we might call the gentle authority of the mature INFJ. Earlier in life, INFJs often wrestle with emotional overwhelm, people-pleasing patterns, and the constant tension between their inner world and outer expectations. But with time, reflection, and experience, something begins to settle. Their empathy does not disappear. Their sensitivity does not harden. Instead, these qualities become refined. In personality psychology, this stage reflects emotional intelligence at its most integrated. The mature INFJ has learned where they end and others begin. They can still sense emotional undercurrents in a room, but they no longer feel responsible for regulating everyone's emotional state. This shift alone changes the way they move through the world. Their presence becomes calmer because they are no longer fighting themselves. They are less reactive. In earlier years, a harsh tone, a misunderstanding, or a shift in someone's mood might have spiraled into self-doubt or overanalysis. Now, there is more space between stimulus and response. They pause. They observe. They choose their reaction rather than being pulled into it. This is one of the most noticeable aspects of INFJ maturity. They are still deeply feeling individuals, but their emotions no longer run the entire show. They have learned how to sit with feelings without being consumed by them. This grounded emotional processing gives them a quiet stability that others can feel, even if they cannot explain it. As a result, people often begin to experience the INFJ differently. Where the younger INFJ might have seemed intensely attuned but also easily overwhelmed, the mature INFJ feels like a safe harbor. Someone who listens without rushing. Someone who understands without immediately trying to take over. Another key shift in INFJ personal growth at this stage is their relationship with responsibility. Earlier in life, many INFJs feel an unspoken duty to fix problems, ease tension, and guide others toward better choices. This often comes from compassion, but it can slide into emotional overextension. With maturity, the INFJ begins to release this constant sense of responsibility for other people's paths. They still care deeply. They still want the best for those they love. But they understand a hard truth of human development. People grow through their own experiences, not through being rescued from every discomfort. This realization changes how the INFJ offers support. Instead of immediately stepping in with solutions, they may ask thoughtful questions. Instead of absorbing someone's pain as their own, they sit beside it with calm presence. Their empathy becomes spacious rather than entangled. This is where their guidance begins to carry a different kind of weight. When a mature INFJ speaks, it is often after long listening and careful reflection. Their advice is not rushed. It is not driven by the need to be needed. It comes from lived experience. From having navigated their own emotional labyrinths and learned what truly helps and what only temporarily soothes. People sense this difference. They may not articulate it in terms of personality types or emotional intelligence, but they feel it. Conversations with a mature INFJ often leave others feeling clearer, not dependent. Supported, not controlled. Understood, not managed. Over time, many INFJs naturally grow into quiet mentor roles. This does not necessarily mean a formal position. It may be within a family, a circle of friends, a workplace, or a community. Others begin to seek their perspective in moments of uncertainty, not because the INFJ is forceful or charismatic in a traditional sense, but because they are steady, thoughtful, deeply humane. There is something about the INFJ communication style at this stage that feels both gentle and grounded. They are less interested in impressing and more interested in being real. Their words are often fewer, but more considered. They are comfortable with silence, which allows others space to think and feel. This kind of presence can be especially powerful in a fast-paced, reactive world. While others rush to judge, fix, or argue, the mature INFJ often brings reflection. They hold multiple perspectives at once. They see the emotional roots of behavior. They respond in ways that de-escalate rather than inflame. This is not accidental. It is the result of years spent understanding human behavior, including their own. INFJs tend to spend a lifetime studying people, emotions, and motivations. In their mature years, this lifelong observation becomes embodied wisdom. Looking back, many INFJs are genuinely surprised by this transformation. They remember the younger version of themselves who felt responsible for everyone's happiness. The one who overextended, overthought, and often felt invisible despite giving so much. The one who mistook self-sacrifice for love and exhaustion for normality. To see themselves now, still caring deeply but standing firmly in their own space, can feel almost surreal. They no longer disappear into relationships. They no longer silence their needs to maintain harmony at any cost. They are still kind, still compassionate, but there is a quiet solidity underneath. A sense of self that does not shift with every emotional breeze. This grounded selfhood is the core of their gentle authority. It shows up in small ways. The way they say no without long justifications. The way they leave situations that feel misaligned without dramatic conflict. The way they trust their intuition about people and dynamics, even if others do not immediately see what they see. Their introverted intuition, once a source of confusion and self-doubt, has become a trusted inner compass. They have seen enough patterns repeat to know when to lean in and when to step back. This makes their decisions quieter but firmer. Others may not always understand their choices, but they often respect them. The mature INFJ also tends to become more comfortable with imperfection, both in themselves and in others. In earlier stages, their idealism can create inner pressure. They may hold themselves to impossibly high standards or feel deeply disappointed when people fall short of their values. With age, their idealism softens into compassion. They still care about growth, fairness, and meaning, but they understand that everyone is navigating their own fears and limitations. This perspective reduces their tendency to internalize others' behavior as personal failure. Emotionally, this brings relief. There is less overanalysis after every interaction. Less replaying conversations to search for hidden mistakes. More acceptance of the messy, human nature of relationships. This emotional spaciousness is part of why others feel safe around them. The mature INFJ does not demand perfection. They offer understanding without losing themselves. In terms of personal development, this stage represents integration. Their empathy is balanced by boundaries. Their intuition is supported by life experience. Their idealism is grounded in reality. Their desire to help is tempered by respect for others' autonomy. All the pieces of the INFJ personality that once felt like contradictions begin to work together. They may also feel a stronger pull toward meaningful contribution rather than constant busyness. Success is no longer measured by external approval or how much they can carry. It is measured by alignment. Does this feel true to who I am now? Does this use my energy in a way that feels worthwhile? Because of this, the mature INFJ often simplifies their life. They become more selective about relationships, commitments, and environments. Not from coldness, but from clarity. They know their energy is finite and choose to invest it where it matters most. This selectivity enhances their impact. When they do show up, they are fully there. Their attention is not scattered across obligations that drain them. It is focused, present, and intentional. People feel that presence. In many ways, the mature INFJ embodies a form of leadership that is rarely highlighted in mainstream culture. It is leadership through depth rather than volume, through listening rather than dominating, through integrity rather than image. They may never see themselves as leaders, yet others often look to them in moments of emotional or ethical complexity. Their strength lies not in certainty about everything, but in their willingness to sit with nuance and still act with quiet conviction. Looking back across the lifespan, the INFJ may be struck by how much their once painful traits have evolved. The sensitivity that once led to overwhelm now fuels deep understanding. The empathy that once caused burnout now supports meaningful connection, balanced by boundaries. The intuition that once created self-doubt now offers guidance and clarity. This is the quiet arc of INFJ growth. The INFJ personality does not remain fixed. It moves through distinct developmental stages, each one reshaping how sensitivity, intuition, and empathy are expressed. What feels like a burden in one phase often becomes a strength in another. From emotional overload to empowered boundaries. From chronic self-doubt to grounded intuitive trust. From people-pleasing patterns to authentic, values-based living. These stages of INFJ development show how personality growth is not about becoming someone else. It is about becoming more fully oneself, with greater awareness and balance. Sensitivity, when combined with self-knowledge, matures into emotional intelligence. Empathy, when supported by boundaries, becomes sustainable compassion. Intuition, when trusted and tested by experience, becomes wisdom. Perhaps the most surprising realization for many INFJs is this: the very traits that once made life feel heavier are the same traits that, when integrated, guide them toward their most meaningful and fulfilling path. Their depth allows them to see what others miss. Their care allows them to connect in ways that feel genuine and healing. Their reflective nature allows them to grow continuously, turning life experience into insight. In the end, the INFJ journey is not about losing sensitivity. It is about learning how to carry it with strength, clarity, and self-respect. And in doing so, they often become the steady, compassionate presence they once needed themselves.